Well, welcome back to our next episode of The Awakened Stranger. And this is Cody. And today we're sitting with Ashley. And Ashley has an absolutely amazing story. Her and I connected on TikTok and kind of shared some experiences about life. And can't wait for you guys to hear kind of what she's gone through and how we've gotten to this point. So, Ashley, if you'd like to take a minute and just introduce yourself and share your life story and some of the things that have happened to you that's got you to this point, I think it's going to start off for an amazing conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Cody. And thank you so much for doing this and giving a voice to so many.
I'm sorry. I was chewing some food, but yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure for me because I'm learning more about myself as well as others, and it's really fun to just be a part of a community that's truly just trying to figure out life right now, and I think a lot of things are
Right.
changing. So
Absolutely. So, a little bit about my story is so I was an opiate addict for 20 plus years. And when I had what I would call my spiritual awakening, I quit cold turkey. And I have no desire. I don't even know the date I quit. And I have zero desire to ever touch anything ever again. Not only that, but I had a disability. I was fully disabled with a TBI, a brain injury, and a seizure disorder. And that was also gone instantly. Once that happened, I haven't had a seizure in months. So a little bit about me. When I was growing up, I didn't fit in. I felt like I was a round ball trying to fit into a square hole, if you will. And, I felt like I just didn't fit. Like even, and a lot of things happened to me when I was younger. Like I was essayed by my uncle when I was 6 years old. I don't remember a lot of my childhood. I know that something happened to me in seventh grade because that year is completely blacked out. And after that year, I remember I started cutting, and I like my wrists, and I grew up in a very religious household. Like we always went to church. It was non-denominational, but I just felt like I never fit in. I never quite connected. And I remember crying when I was in eighth grade in my bathroom with a razor blade to my wrists, saying, God, please take me. I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't right. I don't fit. I don't understand. And I was scared. And I mean, through high school, I was also raped multiple times by guys. And not a single one of them were high school age. They were all older, mid to late 20s probably. And yeah, I just felt like I just was the outcast, somebody that just was misunderstood. And I tried to explain it to my parents, and they would tell me, oh, you're on drugs. I had never done a drug in my life at that point. And then when I was 19 years old, I went in for back pain, and the doctor prescribed me Percocet, and I felt something for the first time in my life. I felt like I was alive. I felt like I had a connection to something, like I was like, oh my gosh, I feel normal. I feel good. Like, wow. And something about addicts is I truly believe they are missing the connection to their true source, to their true self, who they truly are inside. I think that a lot of addicts and a lot of neurodivergent people that I found out I was neurodivergent very late in life. And I feel like we don't fit. We don't fit in a system because it was not made for us. It was not designed for us. It was designed for a different type of person. And that's beautiful to me. And so I started taking Percocet, and I also remember I started faking things, like going to the ER saying like I did this or I did this or I have this just to get Percocet. And they would prescribe it because at that point it was given out like candy. And so then I actually dropped out of high school. I could ace a test without studying, but I didn't do my homework. So I was missing. I found out 3 months before my graduation that I was not going to be able to graduate. And so I dropped out, got my GED, got a insanely high score on that. And I just went and lived my life. I partied like crazy, went to Louisiana for a few months and did all the drugs you could imagine in Louisiana. And I remember I drove my car into a ditch, and a police officer came by and said, we're going to put you in this house until your dad comes and gets you. And I was 19 at that point. And so he brings me home, and I was on meth when that happened. And he brings me home, and I remember I did meth one more time, and I had a friend say, hey, my mom's making me do this thing at a church. And I said, oh, okay. She's like, do you want to go with me? I was like, sure, why not? And I was high as hell, and I walked through those doors, and the high disappeared instantly. And I never touched another drug again. And then I got really involved with the church again. I felt like something clicked, but not quite. Like I felt like it was just still like I didn't belong. And then I will never forget, I did this program. It was called Cleansing Streams. And I would consider that now more ritualistic and things like that. And I will never forget, we were doing this, like, I would call it meditation now. And I heard in my head, you are Mary Magdalene. And I was like taken aback because that's the prostitute. And I mean, I know different now, and I told them, and they looked at me like I was less than, like I was not somebody that they wanted to be associated with. And that happened. Like they kind of stopped talking to me. And so I it just put a really nasty taste in my mouth, because why were the people that were supposed to be non-judgmental, a God that is supposed to be non-judgmental, turning their back on me? The people that are supposed to love and show love, turning their back on me. I didn't understand it. So I was like, I just don't agree with that anymore. So I left the church, and then I remember I went and got a tattoo, and the tattoo artist asked me out, and I remember I took one sip of my drink. And the next thing I remember, I woke up in the trunk of my car with bruises all over my thighs. And he started stalking me after that. And then the next day I saw an ad in a paper for to be a flight attendant. And I went to interview for the job. And I know you said you don't put your last name, but last names on here, but so my last name is Yeager, and I am the great niece of Chuck Yeager, the first man to break the sound barrier.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and so the interviewer asked me if I was any relation to him, and I said, well, yeah, that's my great uncle, and they hired me on the spot. I never thought my last name would bring me anything, but it did. So I actually got a job with Southwest Airlines, and I moved to Salt Lake City. And through that, I mean, I partied everywhere. I was 21, living the life, and still taking so many, getting as many prescriptions for Percocet as I possibly could. And then a year later, I left that. And a month after I moved back to Colorado, I met the father of my daughter. And through this, so over the next few years, first of all, the man that is the father of my daughter, he's an amazing father, but he was very abusive emotionally, and later physically. And but with the church and things, I started to see religion as a cult, and see religion as something that was a business. Essentially, it was designed to just essentially create power and create slaves, if you will. And and eventually I got really into just spirituality. Like, I believed in something, and I tried to go back to the church, but I just felt wrong. And then I remember then we're going to fast forward till when I was about 38 or so. I had started doing rock climbing, mountaineering, things like that. And I was at the high of my life. I felt like I belonged. Nature, I really connected to it. I still wasn't really, I believed in something, right? But I didn't know what. And then I slipped in my shower. My head hit the toilet, and I blacked out for 45 minutes. And that's how I got my brain injury. And then a week later, the seizures started. And so I started back up and I had quit for a while the opiates, while I was doing the mountaineering and stuff, because I felt alive for the first time, and without the drugs. But after that happened, I lost everything. And I remember I was fired from my job. I was a successful insurance agent, and I couldn't do anything anymore. Like, I lost myself big time. And I will never forget, first, there was, sorry, I'm like thinking back. Yeah. So then I ended up meeting this guy, and this guy was wealthy, charming, just treated me so incredibly well. And then all of a sudden the flip switched. And also at this time, I do remember, I'm sorry, I need to back up. Sorry, I should have written down where things happened. So I remember I was on the Percocets, and I went to get my prescription, and the doctor said no, because they now say, the prescription epidemic, where they all of a sudden stopped giving people Percocet because they're like, wait, we caused a drug problem. And I actually looked it up recently, and it's 70 to 80% of opiate addictions started from their doctors prescribing them the opiates, and how they prescribed them like candy. And then they just cut them off. cold turkey. And that's, I'm sorry, I forgot. That's actually how I quit when right before I started rock climbing, things like that, because I had no other choice. And then during my brain injury, I found something called kratom. Now, kratom is a plant-derived. It's a leaf, basically, and pure kratom. It has the same receptors as like a Percocet, as an opiate, and it was 10 times better than any Percocet I had ever taken. And so I started taking it a lot. And then, like I said, I met this guy. And also, at this time, I also had a pet fox, a red fox. And I will never forget, Colorado Parks and Wildlife showed up at my door one day and took him from me. And it was probably one of the worst pains I've ever felt. It was like losing a child. And I found out later, so a year went by, and this guy was very toxic also. And I found out later he actually ended up attacking me and putting me in the hospital. He tried to kill me. And when I was laying on the concrete after he threw me down, he told me that he is the one that had my fox killed. He also killed my daughter's chinchilla. And he, cheated on me the entire time and was just this horrible, horrible human. And also, the person that saw me being attacked, he was a court-ordered PI. So an incredible witness, right, to witness what was happening. Well, I was the one that was arrested, actually. And the reason they said is because I was on his property. So even though we had an incredible, credible witness said, he was trying to kill her, and gave me brain damage and all this other stuff, and so that right there made me start questioning things, because in my head, the police are there to protect and to watch out for people, and they didn't. And I started seeing things a little bit differently then. And I will never forget, so I was in jail for 3 days, and I got out, and I was laying there sobbing. I just didn't want to be there anymore. And I turned on some music and I started meditating, and I just was transported to this like beautiful galaxy, if you will, or a nebula. And after that, I started seeing things a little bit differently. I started getting into witchcraft, actually. And all this time, I'm still taking kratom because it's the only thing that makes me feel okay. And after that, like I said, I started getting into witchcraft, and not like really into it, but into it like just enough. Well, and also this is hard to tell, but so at that point I couldn't work a normal job. I tried, I would get fired. And so one of my friends told me about OnlyFans. And so I started doing it, and I made 10 grand my first month. And I But the thing is, I was also incredibly depressed and incredibly lost. And that, and when I was doing that, every single video I did, every single chat or whatever I did, I just felt gross. Like, just like I needed to take a shower. And, but I did it because how else am I going to pay my bills? How else am I going to do what I need to do to make money? And so I did that. And after that happened, my daughter's dad actually met a girl, and at this point, my daughter is 13, I believe, and my daughter's dad met somebody. It's the first time he ever started dating somebody. I was so excited. I was like, "Yay, welcome!" And it was really funny because at one point, my intuition, like I felt in my heart, I was like, "They're gonna try to take her from you." I felt it. I just knew it. And I even told some people, like my family, and they're like, "Oh, you're being silly. You're being silly." And I just felt it. And I will never forget because I was talking to his new girlfriend, and she said something, and all I said was, "Just be careful because he can get scary sometimes." And I shouldn't have said that. I just shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said anything. I shouldn't have. And about a week later, she canceled a lunch date that we were having. And after that, my daughter started treating me differently. Well, the thing you need to know about my daughter's dad is he he's ex now, Green Beret in the Army. And so he was literally designed to manipulate, heads of state and interrogation and all of that, right? And so in my heart, I was like, he's manipulating your daughter and his girlfriend. And I knew it. I just knew it. And because up until this point, everything was fine. Him and I were getting along well. I had forgiven him for how he treated me in the past. So then I actually I was taking a lot of kratom. And then I remember I went to a smoke shop and they told me this little black pill box was a more concentrated version of kratom. And I took it and I had probably the best high I'd ever had. And I found out later that it was not kratom. I don't know what it was, but it was not. And so I remember I hadn't taken it for like a day or so, and I just thought I could take kratom. Well, that didn't happen. So I started going through withdrawals, like extreme withdrawals, throwing up, shaking, you name it. I was the worst withdrawals I'd ever had. Because usually when I would have withdrawals, a lot of people in the opiate community know that you can take Imodium to help, megadosing Imodium to help get rid of the worst withdrawal symptoms. And I tried that and I just threw it right up. So and those withdrawals lasted a full month. And in that time, I stopped going, I couldn't go to like my daughter's games and things like that. I made excuses, but really, I was just going through extreme withdrawals. And then, so at that point, so because of all of this going on, I wasn't working. I was depressed. I was, I had lost so much. So I ended up losing my Jeep. I ended up losing my house and moving in with my sister. And then I ended up moving with my parents, and I was able to start working again, but then I was back on kratom again. And then I got my own place again. And then things just kept spiraling with my daughter. She kept, these things are wrong with you. These things are wrong with you. And I was like, your dad is poisoning you against me. I had never once spoken bad about her dad, ever, 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 ever. Never told her what he'd done. And I would never, because that is her dad. But she was like, eventually she just didn't want to be around me anymore. And she left. And I spent months just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And every time I tried to kill myself, something happened to make me stop. Like every single time. And I tried multiple times, but something would happen. And I will never forget, I was sitting outside, and I was smoking a cigarette, and I was sitting outside, and I remember a snake literally dropped on top of my head. I had never seen a snake, and well, that's not true. I'd seen a few throughout my life, but not like just drop on top of me. And I was like, what the heck? And then I started seeing owls, like live owls everywhere, and I had never seen an owl in either. And so I looked up, is there like a connection to like a divine being between owls and snakes? Because I started seeing snakes everywhere too. And it led me to Hecate and Lilith. They are two divine feminine archetypes. And so I started getting more, and I thought that was leading me more into witchcraft. Well, I started doing spells, and every spell I did worked, every single one. And I felt a connection. Like it felt like I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Like I was very self-isolating. And eventually, I remember I was about to lose my house, and I did a spell to get the money to pay for my back rent, and it was given to me, and it worked. And then I remember a month later, I still couldn't pay my rent because I was beyond depressed. And I moved back in with my parents. Well, the day I was moving, my parents said, you cannot do OnlyFans in our house. And I was like, what do you mean? That's how I make my money, even though I was not really doing it because I was not there emotionally, or I just, and I also had my seizure disorder. And, I was having sometimes during a week, 8 to 10 seizures a week. And then I moved back in with my parents, and I realized now that them not wanting me to do OnlyFans was a blessing in disguise. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I started doing more kratom, and then my ex took me to court to take full custody of my daughter, and he won. And I was just, after going through so much, and picking up your bootstraps and saying, I've got this, and just powering through. Eventually a person has a breaking point. And I just became a hermit. So, for 6 years. And then over the last year, I will never forget, I started seeing feathers everywhere on my walks. Like I have bags of feathers, and I had never really seen feathers before. And I'm talking, I would see 15, 20, 50, 100 feathers a day.
I see the same thing. I find them all over the place. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that gave me goosebumps. And then I started seeing snakes everywhere. Way more than before. And owls as well, way more than before. And I started talking to Hecate and Lilith more. and just talking, and they would answer back. I would hear them, and they would give me guidance, and I got really into like spirituality, and then I remember I started seeing life as a gift. I started being more grateful for things, like sunsets, and I would just be really grateful for things. And then I remember a few months ago, the Epstein files hit. And, I didn't trust what others were saying because I just don't trust news or anything anymore. And I haven't for a while. And I read them. I took 3 days and I read them. And that put me in this, like, I was enraged. Not only for the victims, but for myself, because I didn't have a voice, and I just took it very personally, and I just went into an incredible dark hole. Like, it ruined my birthday. It was like, I wanted to do something, but I felt like I couldn't. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm one person, like I was angry.
Well, can I share here with a minute? Because
Yeah, of course.
I've seen recently in my life, even just walking my dogs on our little walk path the other day, my wife and I were just on a walk at night, evening, and I saw this huge owl come and land on a tree branch, and it caught my attention just out of nowhere. And right, I've also looked into and kind of learned a lot of Hecate, and that became
Really?
kind of something in my awareness about 6 months ago. And so I started doing research too, and maybe just even for our listeners, the people that are seeing similar signs, whether it's snakes, whether it's owls, I've come to realize that those are different spiritual messages being presented to us, right? And really, it's
Yes.
a balance, and seeing the two of them together is showing a balance in just that kind of primordial intuition, and divine wisdom, right? There's
Yes.
a lot of people that
Yes.
represent snakes, just represent the shedding, the healing, moving through and past all of your old times, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of the representing just a transformation of becoming a new person. Where owls kind of show you hidden truths, an inner knowing, and kind of just an
Mm-hmm.
acknowledgement of your spiritual awakening. So I'm
Yes.
hearing you tell me the story, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like this is where I was just a couple of months ago, of shedding all the old stuff in my life, transforming into this
Yeah.
new version of myself, and then seeing all these signs. I'm seeing feathers. I feel like it's my spirit guides saying, you're on the right path, like keep going.
Yes.
And that's
Absolutely.
how I take it for me, is like every time I see a sign, every time I see an owl, every time, like on Monday I went for just a nature walk along the river, and I'm in Utah, northern Utah. So I was walking along. There's a walk path from the Ogden River that comes out of the mouth of Ogden
Yeah.
Canyon, and I spent a few hours there just walking up along the river, and and I have a crazy fear of snakes. I absolutely don't like reptiles, and it's like a weird phobia that I don't like things that their whole body is a muscle, and just that feeling of
Right.
everything moving. And so I can't touch a snake. I won't touch a fish. I don't like those. It's just a weird feeling in my hand. And so, but while I was sitting there on the edge of the river, just like eating snacks, just enjoying time, meditating, listening to the sound of the water, this little garter snake comes out, and I don't know where it came from, but all of a sudden it caught my attention. It was like 2 feet in front of my feet, and just took off into the bushes. Didn't touch me, so I kind of stayed there. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like I hate snakes, but this thing was like a foot from me, and it didn't cause me any harm. It isn't trying to even come near me. It's probably more scared of me than I was of it. But really, I'm seeing owls, I'm seeing snakes, and just like you are, you're in a transition period of letting go of your
Mm-hmm.
old version of you, letting go of the old identity. But I think the cool part about it is you had to be that person. You had to go through those life struggles.
Yes.
You had to overcome an addiction. You had to put yourself into a spot that maybe caused you to be uncomfortable, family to not be comfortable with what you were doing, and not because it was wrong, but it was because a lesson that you needed to teach yourself to allow
Exactly.
yourself to transform into who you are today. So I I hear your message, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, because I realized that this big breakthrough in my own life was happening just moments after all of that came into my awareness. So I'm more so excited to hear where life's going for you now. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I just got so many goosebumps. And Hecate is actually the goddess of crossroads. And to help you through those crossroads. And what's cool about that is, so after that, I started talking to the trees, actually, hugging trees, and I would just feel this like insane feeling anytime I would hug a tree, because trees have so much power. And talking to the rivers as well, and then this is where it gets a little weird, but it's cool at the same time, I think. So I remember I was sitting outside, and I see this star, and it is brighter than anything I've ever seen before, like ever. And I mean, I used to be a backpacker, so I've seen all the stars, in my observable area. And it was so bright. Like, I thought it was fake. And so I opened my camera and I start recording, and it didn't look like a star. And I was like, for some reason, I said, "Can you hear me?" And I have a video of this too. And it completely bleeped out. Like, it got so big and disappeared and then came back in. And it started doing this several times. And I was like, oh my God, it can hear me. Like, something inside my head was like, it can hear me. And then I posted it online, and somebody said, that's an orb. And I was like, wait, what's an orb? And so I remember I looked it up, and I was led to Chris Bledsoe, and I looked into his stuff as well. And I don't know if you know anything about him or not.
Not a lot. Yeah. Sure.
So he was visited by orbs, and what he believes, and I do too, the divine feminine. And he was given a message. And I'll let others, like, if they want to look into him, they can. But his story is absolutely incredible. Like, NASA has talked to him, other government agencies, like, they're the most researched UFO alien encounter family, like, ever. And their story is absolutely incredible. And so I looked that up, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But I kind of like, and then I started, recording the sky more. And then I will never forget, and then the next night I went, or a few nights later, I went and took my dogs for their walk, which I do this walk every single night. And that walk usually takes roughly 2 hours, like, max. So I'm on my walk, and I am walking, and all of a sudden this man literally comes out of thin air, and walks right past me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, that really freaked me out, but I was like, okay, whatever. And I kept walking. And then I am walking to the park that I always go to, and all the grass is dead. And then all of a sudden I look over, and there is a perfect circle of live grass. And something said, go sit in it. So I did. And I was there for maybe a minute or so, because my dogs were like, let's go, But I just sat there. And I just closed my eyes and sat there. And I stood up, and when I walked out of that circle, I could, like, see the air. It was, like, iridescent, and, like, not with my mind's eye, with my actual, like, I could see it, and I could move it. And then everything around me just felt different, like, more vivid, more it just didn't feel the same as where I was before. And I know that sounds weird.
No,
And
I listen, I hear that, and what comes to mind for me is like a fairy ring, right? That
yes,
that there was
yes,
you entered into a portal and was shown a different dimension. You chose a space to timeline jump, is what I would hear. You chose
that's
a different
literally how it
space.
felt.
Yes. So
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say that, but sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe that's too weird.
no, like I told you before we recorded, I've had way more weird experiences than I've ever dared to
Really?
share, and don't be scared to share, because
Okay,
if
okay.
you've experienced it and I've experienced it, I would dare to bet that other people listening right now have gone through
Okay,
something. So, yeah, there is
sure.
nothing weird or off limits on this podcast. That's for
Okay,
sure.
okay. I love it. And I got home, and I was missing an hour and a half. So I had sat in that ring for an hour and a half. And because, yeah, the time on the clock was not where it was supposed to be. Like, yeah. And my mom was like, you were gone way longer than usual. And I even said, I was like, no, I was gone for the walk. Like, I was gone for how long I always am, like 2 hours. She's like, you've been gone for like 3.5, almost 4 hours. I was
See,
like, what?
and for me,
What?
yep, my understanding too, right? This physical Earth that we live on is what I think is the largest like education planet in the world. We came here as a soul to experience things that you can't have anywhere
Yes.
else. And
Yes.
time and space is the illusion that we're living through right now, right? We chose
100%.
to live here, and time, linear time, only exists in this physical 3D reality on planet Earth. And so when
Absolutely.
you get the opportunity to transcend into a higher dimension, whether it's through meditation, whether it's entering into a fairy ring and getting into that portal, you leave this aspect of time on Earth and you then become aware of a higher dimension. And
Yes.
I use meditation a lot to get to that mind space. And there's a what's in the gateway experience meditation tapes that I've used a
Yeah.
lot. You get into focus level 15, right? That's the space of no time. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been in meditations that are 30-minute meditation tapes that feels like I've spent 5 years in this
Yeah.
space and come back into my reality here. The message, the recording ends, the audio kind of brings me back into reality. And I'm like, oh, wow, that was 30 minutes, but I felt like I've been gone for years. So to
Yes.
realize that you've missed time there, you probably spent more time in a different reality, different mind space. That yeah, maybe 3 hours passed here on Earth, but and I'm again a big believer that everything that we see in our life, movies are specifically like showing us what's real. And in this thought, I think
Absolutely.
of right the movie Interstellar, where right when he gets into the black hole and time is distorted, and then right the tesseract, and he's living
Right.
through a different dimension. That's where I believe, and my mindset says that time is not real in linear
Right.
space, and that we are truly able to jump forward and backwards and live in different moments, and that's all we're doing is
Absolutely.
experiencing a current present moment, but all things are happening at the same time because time doesn't exist, and so every bit of our life is just us experiencing that moment in our present awareness. In reality, there's everything happening all at once, and that's pretty cool. So, sorry for my
That's
little rant,
awesome.
but
No,
yeah,
you're fine. I love
yeah.
it.
So,
um, okay, so, and this is where like I just, it just gets so cool. Like, so the next morning, I wake up and I see this TikTok for a world meditation on peace, love, unity, and respect. And I was like, oh, when is it? Oh, wait, it's today. Oh, wait, it's in 10 minutes. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I shut off my phone and I just sat there. And I had never been able to meditate for like at all. Like, at all. Well, that's not true. I would do like guided meditations, but never without my brain because the ADHD and, my brain going all over. And so, but I sat there And like you were just saying, so it literally felt like I was sitting there for 5 minutes, 5, 10 minutes. It was over an hour. And when I was in that meditation, I started seeing waves, colorful waves in my mind's eye. And also, I started seeing almost glitter, but like multiple colors of glitter. And I was like, oh, what's that? And something said in my mind, that's consciousness. And I was like, what's consciousness? Well, I came out of it, and I just kind of went about my day, and I just felt this incredible peace, you know? Later that night, I remember I was looking up at the same orb or star that was super bright that one night. And I was like, I'm going to download a star app and just see. And the star app said it was Arcturus. And so then I was like, okay. And so I was videoing it, and I said, okay, if I'm not losing my mind and everything is correct or whatever, show me a sign that I'm not losing it, that I'm on the right path, or that I'm really experiencing this stuff. Because I thought I was going a little crazy after everything I had experienced. And then every night before I go to bed, I open my YouTube and I'll listen to like a white noise to fall asleep. As soon as I opened my YouTube after I did that, there was a video saying a transmission from Arcturus, from the Arcturians. And I was like, oh my God. And I listened to it, and it confirmed like all these things that I was thinking and seeing. And, but so then I go to sleep, and I was just feeling really good. And then the next day was Easter Sunday. And I, enjoyed time with my family, but then I was really interested in meditating. And I'm sitting there that night, and I'm meditating, and I'm doing some breath work, breathing. And all of a sudden, my entire body started vibrating. My eyes were shut, but they started fluttering. I thought I was having a seizure. And I fall over and I am out. But I got this insane download. And in it was that we are all God, or all source. I call it source. Some people call it God. It doesn't matter what you call it. But it said that you are God having a human experience. Your source having a human experience. God is not... It also told me that God is both the divine feminine, the divine masculine. And it said that, and here's where I might lose some religious people, but that's okay. It said that, it said Yahweh, or sorry, not Yahweh, sorry. It said Yeshua was never meant to be the key to get to me. It said, there is no heaven, there is no hell, there just is. And Yeshua was a guide. He was trying to tell us the way through me, aka the way, I am the way, the truth, and the light, meaning my actions, what I'm trying to show you is that the kingdom of God is within. You are the kingdom of God. And that there is no sin. Sin is a construct designed by the Council of Nicaea and the churches to create power and control.
Yeah. No, I fully am on that same path.
Are you?
And I'll kind of I've talked about this enough that I think I can maybe articulate it in a way that makes sense because I believe I
Okay.
and here's the weird thing. I believe telepathy is coming online for a lot of people, and
Yeah.
the ability to communicate through emotions is real. And the part for me that makes sense lately is I'll hear the beginning of somebody's sentence and all of a sudden have this full understanding of the story, but then my mind creates a way to communicate it in a way that seems logical. And so maybe I
That's
can
so cool.
share with what I've experienced
Absolutely.
because yeah, I fully believe this again, and I'm okay with the people that want to disagree or have a different point of view because I believe
Same.
that we're all here experiencing life in our own way to
Hmm.
ultimately return that experience or that knowledge back to source. Right? That
Right.
every single human on this earth is experiencing life in their way to ultimately create an experience that will be returned back to source to say, that was pretty cool. Let's try it again as Cody. That was
Right.
pretty cool. Let's try this again as Ashley, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody's living an experience ultimately for source to learn everything about itself. So I believe God, the creator, source, universe, however you want to word it, is
Exactly.
just awareness in consciousness experiencing itself in thousands and thousands of different ways, different lifetimes. Every individual on this planet is just a fractal of creator experiencing itself in that aspect. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, if you want to live life under one religion, that's just your way of creating an experience for Source to understand itself in that view. And
Right.
so, my understanding too is Jesus, Yeshua, was another man on planet Earth that had achieved Christ consciousness, understood the
Yes.
frequency of consciousness, and like he said, that right, everything is within. Go within, and you'll know the answers to the universe. And
Yes.
I am also a believer that right the second coming of Christ is not a man coming back from heaven to fix the planet. That
Right.
is the awareness of our consciousness achieving Christ consciousness in reality.
Hmm.
Right? You take this into the physical vessel. Our body has 33 vertebrae. Christ died at 33 years old, right?
Yes.
There's an oil that runs through our spinal fluid called Christos oil. That
Hmm.
oil runs up and down through our spinal system, ultimately cleansing and aligning our chakra system. When our chakras are aligned from root chakra to crown chakra, it allows the energy in our kundalini, our energy that our body holds, to rise from the root chakra through all of our chakras into the pineal gland, which ultimately creates the full connection to source. And so my belief is that the return of Christ consciousness is what's happening in humanity right now, that we're being awakened to a higher frequency,
Yes.
understanding that we are all part of creation. We're all individually co creating our own reality for the purpose of Source being able to understand and learn itself and experience itself in every single scenario that's
Right.
out there. So,
Yes.
yeah, you're at least on online with what I believe and what is happening for me is that
And
we're
how cool is that? How
yeah.
cool is that? That we're all like, we all like had this same, like, not the same experience, but are having the same downloads,
Hmm.
awakenings. And it's like, okay, we're not crazy. Like,
No.
this is, you know?
Right. And my belief too, and I used to share this in like this small aspect. I came out of the car industry, and I always said that I think the best salespeople, the best people in the car business, always had a past. They've come through something in life that's caused them to think differently. And that was my understanding from a sales perspective. But now I take that whole thing and look at reality as humans and a human experience. We're all just living a life in our own way to create a reality that shows us and source what it's like to live in every different scenario in life. And so
Yes.
I believe that your life was chosen on purpose. You signed a soul contract with yourself, with your higher
Hmm.
self, and you chose to come to this world to go through all the crap that you've had in life. I chose the exact same thing. I've had a lot of trauma in my life, but it's ultimately awoken me to understanding why I'm here, why you're here, right? You chose to have all these experiences in life to learn from them, to ultimately handle some of your karmic lessons, right? I believe that our life is a spiral. As we continue to ascend into higher frequency, we're going to be repeating some of the same patterns and some of the same behaviors that might have been a downfall to us in the past. But now, seeing it from a higher perspective, you get to respond to that same life scenario differently,
Hmm.
ultimately teaching yourself hey, I'm learning, I'm progressing, I'm growing as a person, I'm growing as a soul. And in that spiraling reality, as we continue to climb into higher dimensions, we are learning that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's okay to learn from things. And like I share with my daughters, life is either an experience or a lesson. There's no punishment. There's no, I made a bad choice. I'm getting
Right.
negative karma. Life is about lessons, and you will continue to learn a lesson until you figure out what the hell you're supposed to learn from that lesson. And as you start ignoring it over and over and over, that's when life gets harder and harder. You finally get smacked in the face so hard that you're like, holy shit, I need to wake up and realize what I'm
Right.
doing wrong, because my life keeps repeating itself. That's a
Yeah.
lesson. Like, figure out why you're doing the same patterns over and over, and correct them if you want something different in life. You know, if you love the way you're handling life and you love getting smacked in the face, keep doing the same shit, right?
Right.
That's our free will. That's what we get to do, is choose why we're going through life this way. And I think that's what's happening right now, is a lot of people are realizing that these patterns that we've been repeating, these fear-based kind of lifestyles that we've lived in, sucking ourselves into the news, watching politics, watching the wars, all that
Yeah.
is creating a same circle of chaos that we've become so accustomed to living in, that
Right.
becomes normal. So now it's time to switch our mindset. It's time to start waking
Right.
up to what's happening in the world, and being understanding that we control our environment. It's all a matter of where we focus our energy. So
Absolutely.
it's, yeah, I love your story. I love hearing the fact that we've kind of, in everybody's aspect that I've talked to, we're all coming from different starting points, but we're all merging together in this same space. And it's by no coincidence that we're sitting here talking today about your life and mine, and I think it's a huge benefit to people that are going to be able to listen to this. And so,
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is I will never forget. I saw your first post on TikTok, and for a while there, I was being told, tell your story, tell
hmm
your story. And I was dragging my feet like crazy. And I saw yours, and I don't know what it was, but I saw it, and I was like, and this might sound weird to you, but I was like, you know him. He's telling you, do it.
hmm
And I was like, all right. And the next day I did it. And yeah, so
yeah,
um, yeah, it really is crazy. And, you know, a lot more of my, um, I was, a lot more of what's happened since then is just, yeah, I just, yeah, it's a wild ride.
yeah. Well, and I think even that kind of, your loss for words right now is just a more confirmation that, like I said, when we talk about telepathy and I talk about being able to share an entire thought process, an entire conversation with an emotion, I believe that's coming online. That's the ability that, you know, I astral travel a lot. I have learned how to meditate to a spot where my consciousness leaves my body, and I know that I'm doing it on purpose every night. And for a long time, I would go into these higher dimensions and do work, and I feel like that was soul work. It was my soul was doing
Hmm.
work for my current life, and I feel like that was the veil that was being kind of separating my higher consciousness from my physical reality. For a long time, I never knew, I didn't dream, I didn't remember my dreams, and
Hmm.
I believe that that was my soul blocking things from my view, from my
Same.
perception, because I wasn't in a spot where I could comprehend it yet.
Where you were ready.
and
Yep.
and lately it's opened up to me. I'm starting to see things more clearly in kind of my third eye, my mind's eye.
Hmm.
I'm being made aware of what's happening when I leave my body, and I astral project. And I've, like I said, I've taught myself how, through just a lot of practice, a lot of meditation, how to intentionally prepare my body to let my consciousness leave, and to then
Hmm.
enter into higher dimensions, and I'm more aware of what's happening.
Right.
And and when you speak that out loud to anybody that's not experienced it, you just sound like a crazy freaking nutcase that needs to be
I know.
admitted. And so I've gotten to the point in my life where I just start my stories by saying, this is going to sound crazy as shit, but you got to listen to me, because this is not, I don't know how to tell
Right.
you anything other than call me crazy, but this is real. This is where my head is right now. So
Right.
yeah, for a long time, I'm like, I need to, like, my mom's side of my family has a lot of mental health problems and dementia and, Alzheimer's. And I'm like, am I just losing my mind, or am I just thinking differently? And I doubted myself for a long time. And finally, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that's nothing to doubt. This is real. This is happening. And there's a lot of people that are waking up to understand higher dimensions, and that we're here
Right.
for a purpose. So
Absolutely.
very cool. But so for you, kind of coming through the life and the stuff that you've shared with us, and then now understanding a different perspective, what do you see in the future for you? What do you got planned?
So a lot of my downloads have really been centered around the divine feminine since then. And honestly, like, it's some of the things I've been told not to share, because, yeah, I've just been told not to share yet.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the things, like, I just, I ultimately, I want to help people. Like, I'm at a weird place because I came from already losing everything. Like, I have no job because I was, wasn't able to with my brain injury and stuff like that. So I have no money. I, I am like starting over. And what's really funny about that is I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been money motivated my entire life. Never. It's never been something that I cared about. What I care about is I want to help people. Like, like I said, after my awakening, and there's a lot more that's happened like after it. But like I said, I like my diet has changed. I have no desire to ever touch opiates again. And also, while I was going through my withdrawals, I was also having the sleepless nights kind of after you have your awakening. I don't know if you experienced that or not,
Oh,
but
I only sleep about 2 or 3 hours at a time. So
same.
yeah.
But going through all that and having download after download and going through withdrawals, I was like, oh my God. like, and the diet changing, not having a disability anymore, like completely everything shifting. It's funny because I want to help others find their joy, find their passion. I want to help people that are so lost and the people that don't feel like they belong.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help them find that, if you will. And I just...
So here's my challenge to you, right? As knowing what you've come through, knowing, and I would say, right, life is, and I always say my rock bottom is not my starting over point, it's starting from experience, right?
Yeah.
You're starting with experience, knowing what to do, but I believe that you've gone through what you've had in life to be a voice for others that are in that same shoes. And so
It's
I would
funny
say
you said that.
keep sharing your story, keep engaging with the people on your platform, because
Sure.
there's a lot of people that need to hear your story to feel like they're not alone. But my question for you is, what is the next step? What can you do now, today, to start yourself on the path of being able to help others?
So there's a few different things. Like okay, this might sound crazy, but or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. So, like, yes, I want to help others find their path.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. I want to be an inspiration for others to do that, and also to quit. And I have had several people message me on my platform saying, "Oh my gosh, you've inspired me," and I'm there every step of the way. But there's something more. So the other day I got this download, and again, I said a lot of my stuff is surrounded around the divine feminine. Is I and I haven't mentioned this on my platform, on my TikTok yet, but I want to do a walk for truth this fall. And I want to start in my state of Colorado, and I want to walk to DC, and I want to do a walk for truth, and I want to tell the truth.
I love it.
And it's, and again, this was not something that I want to do, let me rephrase that. I want to do it, but I was told to do it. If that makes sense. And, but not only that, I want to get others to join me to do it. I want to get other, light workers, awaken, star seeds, whatever, priestesses, witches, like whoever you may be. I want to, God, this is hard to like get out. I want you to walk with me from wherever you are, because I believe a shift is coming, and I believe it is within us to show the truth of what is going on, of what we need to bring to light.
Well, here's the cool part, is because I've spent a long time having the same thought. The shift is coming, and I've come to the realization that we're in the middle of it right now. Yes. We're currently living in this shift. We're living in the transformation from a lower vibration living to a higher vibration understanding, and it's happening right now. We're a part of it right now, and we're actually doing it. Right. It's not coming. Right. It's here, and so. And we're also realizing that our manifestations are happening faster and faster, right? The illusion of time is being collapsed, and the waiting period to manifest something and have it come into reality is now being shortened because we're more aware of our thoughts. The idea that when you say certain words, and when you talk about witchcraft and placing spells, that's what we're doing every time we write something down. We're creating a spell every time you write something down. Every time you speak something out of your mouth, you're creating a spell. And absolutely. That's the honest truth, right? You say good morning to somebody in the morning, and you're telling them to mourn the day and try to be happy while you're mourning the day. So I've stopped using the words good morning. I choose to say something different. When I'm thinking about letting go of traumas, letting go of past emotions, I no longer say the word release, because when you lease an apartment, when you lease a car, when you lease something, you're paying rent to keep that in your reality. And so I no longer release my emotions, I let go of my emotions. And it's just a change of how I'm using certain words in my life to realize that I truly am creating my reality with my words. And so absolutely. I would challenge other people, pay attention to what you say commonly, right? The word, when I say I understand something, right? That's me acknowledging that I'm standing underneath somebody else's belief. I'm believing their belief to the point where I'm now lessening myself. I understand if I'm under somebody else's standing, under their point. So now the word I understand. I understand something internally, right? So I use understand instead of understand. And I love that. It's just a change of how we speak to ourselves that changes your reality. You keep telling people, I don't know how to do that. I'm not good enough. I don't have the talent. I've never been athletic. I don't understand how to fix something. Well, all you're doing is reprogramming your mind over and over and over that you can't do something. So stop saying those things to yourself and start saying, I don't know something yet, or I haven't taught myself how to do this yet. And that changes how we start programming our reality. It's very cool when you start realizing the power of your words. And so when you talk about witchcraft and I talk about spirituality, we're talking about the exact same things in just words that make sense to us. So yeah,
absolutely.
It's
so
truly
awesome.
So yeah, very cool. Well, let me ask you this, kind of my final question as we wrap things up. as you've gone through your life and you've had your experiences through all of your struggles, through all of your life, and the things that have been good and bad for you, if you was to speak to somebody living in your same scenario that you had just come through, what would be your advice on them learning how to keep going and to move forward through this?
Mm. Look for the small things. Find something that brings you joy and hold on to it like your life depends on it, because it does. And when you start looking for the small things, the little things that bring you joy every day, they'll start to multiply.
And I've used, and I saw this from somebody else. I feel like I just kind of use other people's good points and duplicate them. But I've started a little kind of gratitude jar. Every time something great
Yeah.
happens in my life, no matter how big or small, right? I drive down the street and I hit green lights for 2 miles and I don't have to stop at a stop sign or a stoplight. I'm like, this was amazing. Make a little note, and I throw it in the jar. And then when I have a really bad day or something just feels like everything's kicking me in the face, I'll just grab a handful of these little post-it notes that are folded up, pull them out of my jar and be like, let me just read 5 things that were good. At one point in my life, there was something that happened nice. So I use those to remind myself that, yeah, life has its ups and downs. We're always being faced with the equally opposite thing. So if you experience a great day, guess what? You've got a bad day coming. And then when you have a bad day, guess what? You have a good day coming. Like everything is in balance. Everything happens for a reason. And
Right.
that's what we have to realize is we're truly just living a full yin and yang. Everything from light to
Yeah.
dark, good to bad. We're experiencing the opposites in lifetime, and now we're just being more aware of it. So very cool.
Right. Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing your story with us and being open, and I know it gets vulnerable when you start talking about things that are parts of your life that have created who you are. I've had to come to that realization for myself that for me to be honest and open for everybody to feel like there's a safe space, and I share things with myself, my story, and you've definitely shared some of those experiences in your life. So I appreciate you for being open and sharing it, because I know a lot of people needed to hear this, and there's a lot of people going through struggles that might not have the same strength and the ability to vocalize their thoughts. And so I appreciate your time, Ashley, and I hope you
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
best in life, and I hope that we can continue a friendship and keep talking and as we go through this. And
Yeah, I'd love that.
so very, very
And
cool.
I also wanted to say, if there are people that are struggling, like with addiction and stuff, is it okay if I share my TikTok so that
Please do.
because
Yeah.
like I said, I want to help as many people as I can, and I am helping several people work through it and break through, and live again. And so, if that's something that you want to do, I would love to help you. Um, or just talk to you, and be somebody who understands. So, so my TikTok handle, or Instagram handle, I have more followers on TikTok, um, by a long shot, but it's Charmed Bohemian. It's just at Charmed Bohemian.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, and I'll tag that in the description for the podcast
Oh,
too, so people
awesome.
can find you, because
Okay.
that's what I feel like is happening is we're just being able to connect each other right now, and this is just a
Yeah.
platform that I know is way bigger than me. I just somehow get to be the host, if you will, or the correspondence to help share
Which
other
is
people's
so
message.
cool.
So I feel like that's just all that was kind of my
Yeah.
life purpose at the moment, is to just be the
Yeah.
connector. So I would love to make sure people can reach out and find you as well, and as you heal and kind of work through your progress. And I know that there's going to be others that need to look to you for that support. So that's amazing.
And Cody, thank you so much. Like what you're doing, and just you are bringing such a light and such a movement to all of this, to all of the awakening, to just every part. And it's just so cool seeing your videos and listening to the podcast, and just it's just, I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. I feel very overwhelmed. I feel like
Yeah, I
I'm
bet.
very not capable of doing this, but it's really one of those things. I decided in my life that I no longer needed to know the outcome before I decided to act. And so that was
Mm.
kind of like when I asked people, like, what's the next step? Like, you don't need to
Yeah.
solve the problem. You don't need to have the outcome already figured out. You just need to know what the next step is, and then do that until you figure out what the step after that is. And so that's all
Oh,
I'm
can I
doing.
mention one thing?
Yeah.
When you just said that, something I just it popped into my head. If you don't know your next step, follow your joy.
Hmm.
Whatever brings you the most excitement, follow it, and everything will work out.
That's so true. And I love that you said that because that's the exact same thing I share with my daughters. Just whatever brings the most excitement, do that until it's no longer exciting.
See, it's the telepathy thing. It's
Yes.
like we know.
So, yeah, there and this it's just more and more proof that it's happening and it's real and it's not just
Yeah.
some made up thought and it's not something that's imaginary. It's and it may not be as simple as hearing your voice in my head, but understanding something from an emotional
Yes,
level. So, yeah, very cool.
absolutely.
Well, again, I've got to get ready for the next call, but I truly
Sure.
appreciate your time, and I think we could continue this conversation for hours because it's something
Right?
that there's a lot of passion behind it, and a lot of people need to hear the message. So let's definitely set up a time to keep chatting.
Yeah, I'd love that, Cody. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
absolutely.
Truly.
Hope you have an amazing day.
You as well.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, what a cool story. And again, thank you so much for your time sharing with us here on the podcast. And again, I appreciate the support, I appreciate the time, and definitely the stories. So, again, just as a quick reference, there's multiple ways to kind of connect with me, whether it's on the TikTok page. I do have only one account. There's a lot of fake ones happening right now, and people kind of stealing my information and presenting themselves as me and asking for donations. So please make sure you don't get tied up to that. I'm never going to ask for donations. There's only one account on TikTok that's at Cody Rampton. Some of the fake ones have additional letters and symbols and different things after it. So just be aware if you're find something that doesn't look like it's me or presenting themselves in something different that you've seen. There's some fake ones out there. I've also duplicated everything over to Instagram, which is at the Awakened Stranger. I don't know if you can find it from just my name, but at the Awakened Stranger is the username for Instagram. And there I've been able to link the links to my Google Calendar as well as the Spotify account for all the podcast episodes. And using that calendar, you can then schedule a time slot to have a conversation where we can share an episode together. And I'd love to hear your story. So please reach out, schedule your time slot, and I would love to have a conversation where we get to hear your information and your story and let the world know that we're not alone. So hope you guys all have an amazing day. And again, I appreciate you so much and thank you. And we'll be on to our next one. So have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.